is News Talk.
You're very welcome back. We're going to turn back to athletics and to Rome. And here's a quick reminder of a very special night in Irish sport.
Ciara Mageean, can she go? In front of her is Georgia Bell. In front of her is Gemma Reekie. And they're all going hard. But a little bit of a boxed-in situation here. And she needs to find a gap. Can she find a gap? She needs to burst her way through. She has burst her way through. And Ciara Mageean's in the gold medal position. And Georgia Bell is fading. And Guillermo is fading. And it's going to be Ciara Mageean's gold medal. She is doing it. She is adding gold to the silver and bronze. And gold it is. The full set of medals for Ciara Mageean. Gold here in 2024 at the European Championships.
She sure did. Already kind of an iconic piece of commentary from Greg Allen, I think it's fair to say. We're delighted she's made time for us. European champion, thank you very much. Ciara Mageean, hello.
Hello, lads. How are you?
Prepare to hear that for the next 50 years.
Oh, look, I'll take that for sure. More than happy to hear it, and that it was Greg too. So, yeah, that's you had a big smile on my face just listening to that.
What's more, you did more for the promotion of camogie on Sunday night than anybody in history.
Yeah, at an athletics event. No, I have a lot of people to thank for where I am in life, and camogie was my first love, and it taught me an awful lot about sport, but also just helped form me as a person too. And it always holds a special part of my heart for sure. So yeah, you can't but draw a liking whenever you need to break out of a boxed-in situation, because the camogie certainly taught me that.
So where are you at the moment? Are you out of Dodge? Are you home? Are you UK?
I'm back in Manchester, where I currently live. I fly actually to St. Moritz in Switzerland on Monday. So straight back to business training session today, and then straight out to altitude where I'll be until the Olympic Games. So it's all go. I
presume Sunday is a moment you probably dreamt about, or certainly daydreamed about, or thought, well, what must that feel like? How did the reality compare?
Do you know what? I often find in the middle of a season, it's hard to truly celebrate and relish those moments. But as I've got older, I've certainly tried to do that a little bit more. So I'm not sure if they were going to give me a victory lap in the stadium, but I took it. They were directing us off the track, and I ran on past. There was far too many Irish people in that stadium not to be able to go around and give them a wave and thank them for being there to support not just me, but the entire team. It certainly is a special moment, and because I didn't get the medal until the next day, I barely slept the night after the race, just that standard practice really, you're so adrenalised. But I nearly woke up in the morning and thought, was it real? Because I had no proof. There was no hardware in the house. So yeah, it's I think it's going to take a while to sink in. It is also funny, it's all part of a process, and I went into that championships believing that I could win that gold and that I was the best athlete going into that field. So the victory was a little bit of a relief for me in many ways, because it was exactly the goal that I wanted. So it was different than some of the other championships where I've nearly probably outdone myself in some of the performances. But it's truly one that I'm gonna savor for the rest of my life.
And did you attempt sleep, or were you so adrenalised there's no point going to bed, or did you just quietly lie there in the dark, reliving the moment?
I really attempted sleep, because unfortunately the celebrations were pretty limited. I got off the track. I had all of my media to get through, which took a while, which is a lovely thing to say, because it means it's gone very well. Got back to the warm-up track and had to cool down, got a flush from the physio deck, and then I was drug tested, so I had to go and provide a sample for that. So you're trying to hydrate enough that you can actually get a full sample out. And by the time I left the track, it was probably about 2 a.m. I was they were locking the gates, and I had my family, my aunts were over, and some of my best friends were standing at a gate asking them please not to lock it, because they're waiting for an athlete to come through. And I celebrated with some cold pizza that my friend Kieran had very kindly went and got, knowing that I probably was going to miss dinner, a little can of Coke, and stood there celebrating with, the people that are closest to me, my boyfriend Thomas, Kieran and Shauna, my auntie Adele, Maria and Katie, and it was a beautiful moment. I got to ring my parents from the mix zone, did that quickly because I knew I was probably going to find it tight to get some time with them. But yeah, whenever I went to bed, Thomas was given out to me. I headed back to Tommy's apartment with Tommy, and my two best friends were there. So we had a cup of tea. They had lions, I'm pretty sure, or berries. So coming from the south, it was good tea, and just sat and chatted, and then eventually tried to head to sleep. So I just spent most of the night staring at the ceiling.
Wow, it's kind of a perfectly unglamorous night, isn't it?
Exactly. I think sport does seem very glamorous to everybody else. Whenever you're in it, you often realise the reality of it isn't quite so glamorous. But do you know what? I had my moment in the stadium. I got to go around and wave at all of the Irish supporters, being able to stand on the podium and hear Ron Naveen. That was a truly special moment. And do you know what? Not only to hear Ron Naveen played, but to hear it sang by all of the Irish supporters there was probably the thing that hit my heartstrings even more. So, yeah, the celebrations will come at the end of the season for sure, most likely when I get home to Portaferry. But for now, it's also straight back to business and trying to recover and get ready for other big goals this summer.
Yeah, I'll bet it is. And I mean, we saw you in your post-race interview give a shout out to folks at home, because we had Jesse Barr on the show. God, it's hard to keep track of the nights after Rashida's run on Monday. God, it really is. It's hard. It's all blended in. Yeah. And Jesse was saying that the Bar parents are raging because they would usually go to these events and they instead said, "Oh, we won't go to this one." And then Thomas goes and wins a gold medal. Had your nearest and dearest thought about travelling, or did they tend not to, or what was the situation there?
Yeah, do you know what? My family typically do travel to major champs in and out, just depends. My parents aren't big travellers. My Aunt Adele travels to everything. She's basically been there for every race throughout my career. My little sister is currently in Australia and she's flying back for Paris. So it made a bit too much. And my younger brother was joking. He said he can't always have his boyfriend and him go on holidays to athletics events. He's like, we're already going to Paris and my big sister works away. And to be honest, the Olympics is going to cost so much money that for probably many people, you kind of have to make some of the choices. And that's one of the reasons why I'm ever so grateful to the Irish fans who travel. It's really humbling to me to think that they would spend their hard-earned cash to come and support us out on the track, and that their family holidays might be to come and to watch the likes of me do my sport. It's a huge honour to have people want to come out and cheer us on. So my parents did think about it. I'll be honest, they were probably in their element anyway. Rome probably would have been slightly too warm for my mummy and dad. Okay,
feet up and maybe the champagne was cracked open, we hope. The race itself, I don't know to what extent you go into analysis of it or not, but you know, we had seen you in September, and you're running so fast at this stage of your career at 3:55.87 in Brussels, and the winning time obviously on Sunday night is about just over 11 seconds slower than that, and it was obviously a very slow race. Now, I dare say at this point, you know, we've talked to you over the years and you've had every kind of race and you've experienced them all. Are you quite happy in a slow race? Suit you just fine? Would you have preferred somebody to break off into the distance and set a faster pace? Where was your head as you realised kind of at 400 metres it's 67.7?
Do you know what? I didn't really look at the clock at all. I went into that race knowing that more than likely there wasn't going to be a true front runner in the field, looking at all of the girls on the track. And I'll be honest with you, I'm happy whatever way a 1500 metre goes out. With my 3:55 behind me, I've shown that I'm more than capable of a fast-paced race. But also, I was looking through some of the medals. Thomas was trying to find a few medals in the house and realised I don't know where the bronze medal is. I'm fairly sure it's in Portaferry. And we were going through trying to make the full set. And he's like, where's your one from Amsterdam? So I think it's back home in Portaferry. But looking at those times, quite often championship races aren't the fastest in the season. I'm realising the sun's come in here and it's shining right in my face, so I do apologise.
No, you're fine.
That quite often championship races aren't the fastest. Whenever you look at some of the fastest races throughout athletics history in distance and middle distance races, they're usually in the fast-paced diamond leagues, which are perfectly paced. Championships don't have pacemakers, so it's all down to the athletes in the race. And you have to weigh up if you're willing to be the person that's gunning the speed, gunning the pace out the front, because that typically uses more energy. So whenever it slowed down, I was like, happy days, do whatever you want, girls. I am prepared for whatever tactics are used. So I was ready if somebody wanted to take on the pace. I'm feeling in good shape. I've ran a good 800 this season. Probably had kind of a tactical race in Ostrava where I finished like a train, but was a little bit sluggish to start off with. So I was like, oh, we'll see how it goes. But I did feel it was going to be more tactical out there, and it did pan out that way. Looking back on the race, I often find it a lot better whenever I can watch back a race and find some things that I should have done better. That's something that I think is extremely valuable. And looking back at it, I probably could have went a bit sooner with the way I was feeling. I probably could have kicked sooner. I thought I was more boxed in at some points than I was. So yeah, for me, it was an important learning curve because there's other big races in the summer that I am definitely going to need to have my wits about me and make sure I don't get boxed in because there's going to be girls that will be running much faster. But yeah, I was prepared for both a fast race and a tactical one. And it turned into a tactical one.
Yeah, because, I mean, you could even hear it in Greg's voice on the commentary around the time that Gemma Reekie and Georgia Bell, the two British runners, are ahead of you. That's kind of nervy enough for us watching at home. Like, there's no obvious gap there. But I suppose we're thinking, well, worst comes to worst, she has an option to go around them. Obviously not ideal, but it's maybe there. But then when Guillermo came up on your outside, that's when on TV we're saying, well, she is boxed in. Now, you sounded so assured and authoritative afterwards when you were saying in your interviews, well, I just knew a gap would appear and knew a gap would appear. Well, like, how did you know? Because I didn't think a gap was appearing. So you looked fairly boxed in to me. I can see why you're now rewatching the race and thinking, will I go earlier to avoid that potentially happening in a bigger race? But you did seem so confident a gap would appear.
Yeah, I think whenever you watch middle distance race, and if you watch the end of a 1500 meters, typically the athletes come down, and for some reason we all sprawl out a bit. Sometimes maybe an athlete senses somebody coming on their shoulder and they kind of move out, or for some reason it spreads out more than it would in any other section of the race. There's no way we would usually go out to lane 3 or 4. I had written in my diary before going in that if I get boxed in, not to panic. Typically that's usually earlier in the race where you don't want to be boxed in if a move is made and you can't get out. I was like, don't panic, you'll wind it in, you'll be ready. But interestingly, before finishing off my like thoughts, I was like, if you're boxed in with 300 to go, don't panic. If you're boxed in with 200 to go, don't panic. With 150 to go, don't panic. You will get out and you will finish strong. So when it did happen, maybe perhaps because I prepared myself in many ways and I believed that this is going to open up somehow. Also possibly because I was feeling so good that I was like, even if I need to check my step right now, I can accelerate and still get past these girls. I felt really confident going into that home straight. I was like, this is mine and I'm ready to get it. Now, I could run that race again and it wouldn't open up the way it did, and I would have to use some other type of tactic and move out around. But it did. It happened. The British girls parted like the waves and I was able to run on through. I didn't realise until I spoke to my parents after that I smiled when it happened. And yeah, maybe that was even the unconscious me going, oh, brilliant, happy days, because that race could have been 50 meters further and I could have accelerated again. I felt so good. So yeah, I think trying to keep your composure in a race, trying not to panic, because when you do get stressed, you tense up and it has a very negative effect on your form. So I'm glad that I prepared for that. But yeah, I didn't know for sure it would open up, but I sure as hell was having the faith that it would.
Okay, really interesting. Why are you running so fast and feeling so good at 32?
Yeah, I've often wondered this myself, because I would have thought my peak, certainly whenever I was younger, would have been at around 28. I thought that's typically where I thought I would peak in the sport. I can only attribute it to something Jerry told me a long time ago whenever I was going through a big spat of injury in university. I didn't actually run at all for Ireland as an under-23. I actually didn't really have an under-23 career at all. If you look, I don't feature at all in any under-23 records because I didn't actually race. I had ankle surgery after my junior career. and had a few years where I was coming back from that and would have a bit of a niggle and suffer something else and not actually get into the true form that I feel I should have been running at. So if you look at somebody like Sarah Healy, whenever I was Sarah's age, I was just riddled with injuries, recovering from ankle surgery, and didn't even get a vest. So Jerry always told me that it would stand to me at the end of my career, that because my mileage overall up to that point was still relatively low, that it would just mean there's some more miles in this chassis and in the engine. So really, that's what I think that I can attribute it to. I would also say that throughout my career, I've been quite unlucky with injuries, and spells of injuries have meant that I haven't been able to train at a super intense level for that period of time. So possibly those little periods of injuries meant that I wasn't training super hard, which means I'm now kind of having a little bit more longevity come the end. Quite often, whenever you look at say, for example, some of the marathon runners who are typically women, sometimes get better with marathon with age. Certainly a lot of the Irish athletes are. And some of those athletes don't start running until relatively late in their career, which makes you wonder how come they're running in their late 30s. Mainly because those ladies hadn't been running as hard in their teenage years and their early 20s. So they just have a little bit more life in the body. Right. So I think that's the same for me. And I'm delighted. I don't know for sure, but I think thanks to that and possibly that robustness, maybe not so physically because of the injuries, but mentally because of them. People do often ask, did I ever think of quitting? Didn't quite occur to me to do that because I hadn't yet reached the goals that I knew I was capable of in this sport. So I was always determined to A, run as fast as I felt that I could, and B, get the medals that I feel that I should be able to win. So now that I've got this one, I'm feeling pretty good. I finally have a gold.
Oh yes.
And,
give us a look. Hold it up. Sorry, radio listeners, but we want to look at it. Oh wow.
So I'm glad that I finally got this. My name's on the back. And again, typically a slow time for those championship races. But yeah, I'd say that's a pretty long-winded answer for me.
No, it's interesting.
I think the injuries, as difficult as they were, and the undertraining during them because of that, have maybe given me this longevity in my career, and I'm going to make the most of it. I'm 32 and running the best I've ever ran. Chatting to some of my counterparts, the Spanish girl who finished fourth in that race, Esther, I've known her for a lot of years. That's her third time finishing fourth at the European Champs. So I was absolutely devastated for her. But I finished that race, and the first thing Esther said to me was that she was delighted for me doing so well. I feel truly blessed throughout all those years to have met friends like that in the sport. But we were chatting, and Esther was like, I'm going to retire. And I'm like, you can't retire yet. Now I'm pretty sure Esther's 34, 36. And she's been running that long. And I've got every ambition for, as long as I'm running fast and improving or performing at a level that I want to be performing at, that I'm going to stick around. We'll see if I just keep aging like a fine wine.
Look, if Jerry said it, I'm sure it's true. That'd be the way to sum that up. It's funny. I'm sure he's been on your thoughts, of course, because so much lovely stuff on social media. And I don't even know who it was. It just got a gazillion likes. It went viral and popped up on my feed. Somebody went to his bench where, there's a bench, obviously, in memory of Jerry. And the tweet was, wait and I tell you what happened last night. And it's so lovely. Like, you two are kind of associated in everybody's minds as well. And you thanked all the volunteers in your post-race interview as well. Like, such a kind of, we know you do such brilliant interviews here over the year, but to have that kind of thought in your mind as well. Like, for the racing community, I mean, it's such an amazing thing. Have you been flooded with messages and tweets, and you've allowed all that to come on in? You're not getting back to business mentally too soon in that sense?
I certainly am getting back to business because there's no time not to.
Sure.
I had a run the following day. I had a training session today, for example. There's no rest for the wicket. Athletics. The athletics timetable doesn't pause simply because I had a good championship. So I certainly am getting.
But then I hope you're spending 5 hours on your phone.
Do you know what? I've actually had to be like, I need to take a little break because my screen time has gone through the roof. And I will say I am trying to get through all the messages, which I haven't even come close to, between my social medias and my own phone, trying to get back to all of the people that have sent me such kind messages. I've genuinely been blown away, and I'll say I didn't. So there's so many things, even stuff that I'm say tweeted in, or I don't know if people say tweeted anymore. I'm not quite sure what it is.
Yeah.
That I then don't notice until somebody takes a screenshot and sends it my way. Like my siblings send me funny ones that they might see, and quite often those things don't come to me until much later. That somebody says, "Did you notice that?" And I didn't actually know that about somebody sitting on Jerry's bench. And whenever he said it, I got a little lump on my throat because I try not to get emotional. It's ridiculous every time I talk about Jerry, but I feel like it was a little bit of destiny. I had a lovely message from Dermot McDermott, who would have been very good friends with Jerry. And anybody who knew Jerry knows that he loved Italy. He had a very soft spot for the country itself, the Italian language. Him and his partner Ursula have had a little apartment out in Italy as well, in Lake Como or Garda. I'll get mixed up between the two. Jerry always intended for us to get a little holiday. He's like, if you ever want, just go off out there. Unfortunately, I was always that busy with running and then university that I never got the chance. So I don't know. There was something a little bit full circle for me to win that gold medal in Italy, somewhere that was so dear to Jerry's heart. I only wish that he was in the studio in RTE commentating on it. I'd say he would have enjoyed it very much. He called me Ragazza, which is girl. He would have called by the house in Rathgar and asked me, do you want to come for a coffee, Ragazza? So Thomas said that whenever I get off the track, that he'd be very proud. And he did not get too emotional.
Yes, no, I know. So, he would, of course. He would, of course.
Yeah, it was very beautiful. But I'm trying to get through all of those messages, and I'm loving the montages and all the videos. It's it's very fun whenever I don't have to actually make a social media post myself, because I can just collaborate with some amazing videos that people have made, which are far better than the ones that I could actually put together.
Yeah, but it just must be amazing, because we all know the highs and the lows of the last decade, and sport is so cruel. And geez, you mentioned that per Spanish rudder. I mean, that just shows sport doesn't owe you anything, and it doesn't always turn out well. So I guess a final thought, are you nervous about the next 6-7 weeks? Are you relishing it? Like, what's your headspace now ahead of just, like, it's just so big in so many ways, and you're trying to obviously keep in the moment and all that, but how are you feeling?
Do you know what? I'm really excited. I'm excited to go and train and work really hard for the next few weeks. I feel like the performances out there and winning gold is obviously fantastic, but I feel like I'm not fully fit just yet. This is only the beginning of the season, and rather oddly in the morning, I did a shakeout the day of the race, and I said to Thomas, he was beside me on the treadmill, I was like, do you know what? I'm really looking forward to just getting a good hard tempo in, because whenever you're going from race to race and start your season, your training kind of takes a back step and your mileage goes way down, because obviously you're trying to sharpen up and get ready for the races, and they're really important. It's the reason why we do all this training. But I had the goal for European champs. It was written on my wall, gold medal. Thomas had put it on a piece of paper and stuck it up on the wall in camp. That was my first goal for the year. And approaching that day, I was like, okay, I'm ready for this race. I've done everything I can for this race. But I'm really looking forward to getting stuck back into training, to getting my mileage back up, getting back out to altitude, and just really working hard over the next 6 weeks. And it's a mindset that I haven't always had in the sport. It's probably something that's changing as I've gotten a little bit older. I've often felt it's a really good place whenever I'm excited to hurt, to go out and to go out with every single run and every single training session, and with the aim to nail them. But also to know that recovery is just as important. I'm going to try to nail that. I'm going to try to do everything I can to be on that start line at the Olympic Games, to achieve the other goal that was written on that wall. And I'm kind of probably never been in such a place that I'm really excited to go and train, because I feel that I can get myself super fit to get out there and be in any chance of a medal at Olympic Games. You need to be able to run sub 3:55. So I need to get in the best shape I've ever been in, and I'm prepared to work my ass off to do that. And it's exciting. And of course, there's a lot of pressure. No more pressure than I put on myself, but it's an absolute joy that I can sit here as an athlete and say my biggest stressor is perform well on athletics track, because, not to bring it down, we all know that there's things happening in the world that are heartbreaking and that we can feel so helpless about. My biggest worry is performing well in a sport, and things put stuff into perspective. So I've been trying to have that approach where I give it absolutely everything, but also try to remember that I'm going to get out there and enjoy this, to relish every moment I have in the sport. And when I'm happy and relaxed like that, I perform best. I was super nervous for the first round of that championship, but interestingly, for the final, as soon as I walked into the tunnel, just got a sudden clarity of, I'm ready. And I know whenever that wave washes over me, I suppose people can describe it as the zone. I just suddenly felt like that, like I'd stepped into something new. And whenever that hits, you're in a good place. And I'm feeling like that right now about my training, and I'm hoping it continues. 2 months is a long time, but I know whenever I waver, I have the right people around me to help lift me back up. So yeah, I'm excited, and I'm excited to see as much for me going forward into the summer, but also the rest of the Irish team going into the summer.
Wow,
as you mentioned, we've got the relays coming up. There's lads in the 10K as well. So do you know what? It's a really exciting time to be in Irish athletics. I'm super proud to be out there, to be flying the flag myself, to maybe be like a little bit of a role model for the team, my teammates coming through. But I'm even more excited to be a fan of my own sport, to cheer on the youngsters coming through, because yeah, we're really setting the world alight, and people will certainly fear the tricolour when they see it up on that start list.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the last few days, I don't remember a kind of a time. You're going back to Sonia, really, in my memory, for when everybody come into a stop watching a race. And, you know, we were so delighted that you had your moment with that kind of attention on you. You know, it really did feel like that. So long may the good form and the good vibes continue. And congratulations again. I mean, it's a brilliant thing. And I know you want to stay focused, and you'll celebrate it more at the end of the year, hopefully, with other things to celebrate. But a big congratulations nonetheless. As you can imagine, there's loads of love coming in for you in the text messages too. So we'll let you go. Ciara Mageean, thank you so much for making time for us. We do appreciate it, as always. Thank you.
Not at all. Thank you so much, lads.
Off the ball on News Talk.